Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. James, continuing on with this Balsa USA Smoothie build. And in this video what I'm going to show you is I mounted the carburetor and the muffler. In order to do that I had to cut out and make kind of room for these different parts. As you can see here, here's for the needle valve, and then there's a little slot here I had to cut, or a groove, so I can get access the screw on the muffler here. And then of course I cut out this lower portion of the fuselage here to accommodate the muffler. And then I also added some triangular stock in here which is going to be used to help sort of like kind of thicken up this area, sort of like doublers, so that when the nose of the airplane is sanded, you can kind of sand down to the geometry of the spinner. So that's why that's in there. And I'm actually going to have to end up putting probably some more doublers or some more material in here in order to get that to work, because I'm going to be running out of room, I believe. Once I start sanding this down, I think I'm going to be kind of running out of wood, and so I'm going to have to probably thicken this up in here. But that's going to be on the next video. So anyhow, that's kind of what I did on this video, and let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting these triangular pieces up here in the front nose section, and these are to basically to add a little bit of I guess maybe a little bit of strength, but also to sort of fill in this sort of cowl area around the engine, so that when I go to shape the front end of the nose here, I can get it to sort of meet the spinner. So I kind of have to add these pieces in. Now the plans call to cut these to 2-inch sections, and then to sort of taper them down. Maybe you can kind of see it here, right there. Sort of taper them down, kind of backwards. And I don't think I really need to worry about that if they're not in the way. I'll just leave them kind of just squared off like this. I'll probably have to do it on, taper them on this side, since this is where the kind of all the workings are with the carburetor and the throttle and all that, throttle line and such. So anyhow, we'll see how it goes. All right, so let me go ahead and cut these down and we'll get them placed in here. So I'm going to use my cutting mat because it's got the grid on it, and I'll just go like this right here. This is an 8-inch stock piece, so I'll just mark it just roughly 2, 4, 6, and there's 8 right there. I'll just go ahead and use my little miter. See how this works. Let's see here. Somewhere like that. All right, those are good. Now I'm going to glue them on with some thick CA and some thin CA. So they're going to go in here just like this. Okay, so I'm just going to use this Loctite super glue. It's sort of a thick CA. It's not the thin, like the thin consistency of something like this. And this is one of the reasons why I've become sort of a big fan of the Starbond glue, mostly because of the applicator. You can look at the end of this thing. It gets all sort of like gummed up and clogged up, and that seems to be a problem with a lot of CA glue applicators. And I really like the Starbond, kind of how that system works. So this should be okay like this. Kind of clean that out a little bit. Let me see if I got glue. And I actually have a bottle of the thick CA from Starbond, but I don't want to open it just yet because I have this stuff right here, and believe it or not, I know that I'm getting kind of closer to the end of this build, and I'm not going to be doing a whole heck of a lot of gluing, and I don't want to open up a brand new bottle. And I know I have a little ways to go here, but I still want to conserve that other bottle. Okay, and I can see here that I'm going to have to go ahead and trim these so that I can eventually get to those screws when needed. So I'll have to trim this back a little bit, but I'm not going to taper it like they do in the plans. I don't need to do that. I'll just make room where I need it. I kind of think that CA glue is CA glue. I think a lot of these manufacturers, I don't know for sure, I haven't done the research, but I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot of difference. This one's going to come out just a little bit because there's a taper. Okay. Yeah, so I'll have to trim this back, and that's okay. And again, I had to kind of extend it because there's a taper, or this is angled, so I needed to kind of bring it out a little further. So I'll go with it like this for now, and then I'm going to have to cut this whole area out anyhow for the muffler, so this will work. It's going to fit in there, and then again it's going to be trimmed when I get to that point. Carefully. That's that. And then I'll just do a little bit of thin. Whoa, that was a lot of thin. Should probably get my little applicators for that. Tell you one thing, it's been hotter than a bucket of red ants lately. This garage is hot to work in, so I'm kind of been limited some of my build time out here. So I'm going to go ahead and just do some trimming right now, just to kind of do some initial, and I'll come back to it. And what's going to happen is once this bottom piece goes on, it's going to be glued on top of this, and you're not going to look in here anyhow, for the most part. That's good for now. And then of course the carb is going to go here and such. This is all going to be trimmed out. Let me put this over here. Get these guys out of the way. And I'll continue to do this as I build this front end here. I'll probably even be making some, I'll do some work on it, then I'll probably do some more modifications until I kind of get to the end. Okay, so that's good for now, I think. That'll just kind of get me in the ballpark. And then for these front pieces, if I can get down here. So one thing I need to do is the carburetor needs to be attached to the engine, obviously. And I kind of have a little bit of an issue, which isn't a big issue at all, is that the screws to the carburetor, right here, they go in to the body on both sides here. Now, I could pull the engine off and then kind of set it back down and try to get the carburetor to fit on here in the right spot. I can do it that way. But I think I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut, and I'm just going to drill a couple access holes for a screwdriver on both sides, kind of on these cheeks right here. and just so that, excuse me, just so I can get the carburetor mounted, and I can just use the screwdriver, you know, through here like this. And then when I cover it, I'll cover it with the Monokote, and that little hole will be gone anyhow. So I'm just gonna kind of do this little kind of workaround, so I don't have to take the engine out. So let me do this. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this lined up and estimate where the holes are, which should be pretty easy to do. I should have done it before I put these pieces on here, but I'll do that now, and I'll drill out a hole on this side and then on that side. Okay. So I'm just going to use this ruler, and I'm just going to, doesn't really matter if I use the ruler, I'm just going to mark where approximately the hole is. The center of the hole of the mounting screw is about right here. Okay, it's about right there. Well, about a 1/16 below, right there. So mark on here. Somewhere on that line. And then I'm going to approximate down. Yeah, I really should have. Well, actually, this will work out because I can use the top of this. So the center looks like it's about right there, about a 1/2 inch. About a 1/2 inch down. And I'm going just from the end of the ruler itself, so it's going to be a little bit more. That'll work. All right, so that's that. I just did a little workaround here, so I can get to that screw in there. Okay. I guess I'm being a little bit lazy instead of having to take the engine back off and do it that way. Okay, so now I'm actually gonna fit the carburetor on here now, right in here, and I can see I'm gonna have to cut a lot of this kind of back out of here. But that's okay. That's kind of why we're doing this. So this kind of doing this work is going to be a little bit sort of just trial and error, going slowly and cutting things away as I go. I'm trying to fit it. I'm going to do a little bit at a time. I think this ends up being a little bit tight of a fit for the OS46. Now I know that the specs on this were a 40 class, and I think probably like if I was putting a 40 size FP engine in here, it probably fit a little bit, have more room. So I am finding that this is kind of a little bit of a tight fit for this 46 AX2. Okay, we'll go like with that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to trim some more of this out. Make room for the throttle arm to move. I'm gonna end up cutting most of this stuff right back out. But you do want to have as much of this kind of as you can, because it does add that extra support, especially up here in the nose, because on this side definitely, because there's nothing connecting, there's no support for this front block here, and it's going to be sort of loose up here. So I am going to put kind of some magnets in here, but I do want this to be built up a little bit. So this one's not going to be as bad because this is going to be glued on top of that, and it's going to have to be kind of cut out also. So it's going to end up being hollowed out anyhow to a certain extent. But I don't mind trying to save as much of it as possible to help support things. This is called model building, right? And ultimately I need to be able to take the engine completely out, so I can't, and it's going to come out this way. So I have to make sure that when I put this block on here, I have a big enough room to sort of just kind of rotate it and pull it out of here. And usually for me, a lot of times when I'm doing this, things don't come out perfectly as I'm planning them and hoping them to be. So sometimes I've ended up with these giant kind of holes sometimes, anticipating where things are going to go, and then having to modify them. So I do try to go a little bit at a time and kind of ease it in, because I do want to sort of maintain kind of the front nose, the cowl area, to be somewhat conceal the engine and have that kind of nice finished look to it. Okay, let's try this out. Just a little bit more. Okay, so I think I'll go with that for right now. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to be putting the little extension, a little piece of wire in there, and extend this out, because obviously I can't really get to it. I will be using a small little wire, kind of like a piano wire extension there. Okay, I think that's good for now, and I'm going to put these screws in. I don't know if it'll fit through here. Now again, when I have the plane completed, obviously I'm not going to be taking the carburetor off like this. I'll be taking the engine completely out. So I won't need to access it from the side. This is just my little workaround for being a little bit lazy. So one thing I wanted to note here is that if you, I'm going to pull this off here real quick, and I put the spinner on here, or the back plate, what you'll see is that this is, this is per plan, and this is I think it's a 2.5 inch spinner. And if you look at this, there's not very much, there's hardly any actually room left over. So imagine like when this is on here and the spinner's on here, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sanding and shaping this down to sort of meet that spinner shape, to kind of have it blend into that cone shape. There's not going to be very much left at all. There's just going to be like when I'm coming down onto this thing, it's going to be very thin. The sidewall is going to be very, very thin in here. And what I'm thinking about doing, or actually what I am going to do, is I got some 1/4 inch stock like this, and I'm actually going to just sort of build up some material like right in here, so that I have a little bit of room to work when I kind of get this thing down into that spot. So that's just the way it is. The plan shows it being thicker on when it comes to the end over here, but that's not kind of how it worked out when you look at it. So it does thin out a lot, and this is to the plans. There's nothing about this that has been modified, and this is the size of the spinner, and yeah, so it's going to have to be trimmed to kind of meet. You're going to lose a lot of this material to kind of meet that shape. So I'm kind of a little bit kind of thinking about this and kind of see how this is going. I'm trying to visualize it, but there's not a lot. I'm not going to end up with a lot of material here. Now this side, the bottom is not as bad because I do have this piece, and it's going to kind of come in here, but still it's going to be really thin. So I'm still not quite sure. Even this one, if you look at it, don't have a lot to work with. Because you kind of imagine this thing kind of coming down to meet the cone, the spinner cone, which is right here. This isn't actually the spinner I'm going to be using, but this guy's going to be on here like this. See? And there's not a lot to work with when this thing gets kind of trimmed down, as the plan's kind of showing it. So yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit. Okay, so now I'm gonna make room for the muffler. I'm gonna cut this piece out here, and then I also have to make a little bit of a kind of like what I did here, so that I can access this screw on the muffler. This one I should be able to get to, and it is going to be a little interesting because this is going to be on here, and this piece is probably going to be cut. There's going to be a big chunk cut out of this in order to kind of access all this stuff, but I do need to at least kind of get it down in here, kind of notched out, and then of course obviously on this side. So I'm going to do that. Once I get sort of the muffler on, this is on, then I'll put this piece on and get everything to sort of fit at that point. So I kind of have to do one thing at a time here. So let's flip this over here. Okay, and I'm just going to sketch I'm just going to look down on it and sketch pretty much where I think it's going to go. Again, giving myself a little, I'm going to go a little bit bigger because that's going to get hot, and I want to give it a little bit more space to, I don't want to burn the wood. something like that. And I'll evaluate that, and I'll see if I may need to make it bigger. So we'll see how it goes. Let me grab the muffler. Okay, and this guy's going to go like this. I'm going to have to adjust my... This will get adjusted outward. So it's going to go right in there. Okay. And I think I'm just going to go with an X-Acto. Probably cut this with a saw if I wanted to start it. I don't have a lot of room to get in there though. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually go this way. Okay, so I think that's good there, and then I will kind of put a little mark right there. And I'll notch this out now, kind of where that is. Sort of right there. So that should be okay now. Should be able to get to my, using an Allen key to get in there, should be good. May make it a little bit bigger later, but we'll go with that for right now. Okay, so let's put the muffler on. See if I can get this through here without too much trouble. This guy here. All right, so let's take a look at this. Let me pull this out of here. Of course, the plane's going to be like this. This is the upright position. And have all those little areas cut out. So my next big step, this is basically into this video. My next video, I'm going to be putting this lower block on, cutting that, and also increasing, kind of putting some extra sort of doublers inside of here to accommodate, so when I'm doing the sanding to kind of meet that spinner profile. And then of course we have this larger block, which is going to go on top of here like this. It's going to have to get cut. So I have a little ways to go still, but continuing to work on this. Also next time I'll be putting on the landing gear plate, which is going to go, this guy goes on here like this, and then the landing gear plate goes back here. I'm not going to be using the kit landing gear, which is a wire landing gear setup. I'm going to be using kind of more of a solid landing gear setup. So I'm actually going to flip this over. These grooves are for the wire landing gear. I'm going to actually flip this over and put it like this, and then I'll mount the landing gear straight onto this plate right here. But that'll be the next video, I believe. All right, well that's it for now. Thanks for watching my channel. I appreciate it, and we will see you next time.